You are awesome and your work is extraordinary. But if nobody knows it, then it's as though it never happened. Well, sure, the impact is felt, maybe you're working in direct service, but if you didn't tell your boss, if you didn't tell your team, if you didn't tell the public, it really is as though it never happened. So today I want to talk about the value of communications. And so many clients I work with and just people I observe think communications is like the icing and not the cake. It is the foundation. No, the foundation is good work, but without communications, so much of that work goes unnoticed or unused. And I want to walk you through how I see this actually manifest in the different types of clients that I've worked with, whether it is a small business, larger business, government, or nonprofit. And spoiler alert, government's the worst at it, which you know because you live under a government. Okay, so first of all, what am I talking about when I talk about communications? I'm not just talking about like the PR girl in the cocktail dress organizing the fun event at night for a brand. I think that's sometimes what like PR gets thought of, which is very adjacent to communications. But then sometimes we think about strategic communications, and that's more like, I think people can cordon that off to like media relations and not really strategy. And, I majored in communications, didn't come back around to it as a career until later. But the more I have worked in communications with clients over the last 15, 20 years, the more strength I see in communications and how much a lot of the problems they have internally with their team, and especially as the team gets larger, and externally with their public, their customers and potential customers or constituents, all tracks back to communications. Now, I need to do another video about where the root problems come from. It's really only a few things in general. The root problems when your business isn't working or when people aren't getting it are, your problems, not their problems. It's on you to solve it. Clarity, accountability, and communications. Like you could probably boil everything down to that. I would add maybe policy in that, which is a big thing to untangle. We can come back to it. But first, what I'm talking about when I talk about communications. In this framework that I'm inventing as I talk to you, I do have a communications framework, but for the purposes of this video, I'm not really talking about marketing. I'm talking about an overlap with marketing, certainly. But it's sort of like when people say brand and they think brand is just like your logo and maybe your colors and fonts. No. Brand is every touch point you have externally and to some degree internally, whether you are keeping your promise consistently. And communications is how you fuel that. Okay? So communications could include, how do we tell people about what we're doing and who are our audiences and what are our systems to make sure these things are happening in an appropriate and consistent and frequent way? How are we being proactive? So internally, this is what I've seen it look like. Executives get on the same page after working with pregame, and they've got their policies, they've got their values determined, they know what the standards are of professionalism in their workplace, but they didn't explicitly tell the rest of the team. So you feel aligned as an executive team and you're like happier and this is great, but you don't understand why there's these underperformers on the team. Well, you never told them exactly what the expectations are. And I'm not talking about job description. I'm talking about what I call standards that I create with clients, which are different than values. Standards are, this is what professionalism means at this company. This is what removing friction for each other and for the client means at this organization. So for pregame, it's things like impeccable external communications, like no one's catching us slipping with grammar or spelling or margins that change throughout the document, like very detailed, because I can't charge a premium if I'm not delivering a premium product. Another one we have is simply like our meetings always end 5 minutes to the hour. We don't go over time because we value our clients' time and we organize our time and facilitate proactively so that people can get back to what they're doing because they're busy. Telling your team the goals, the vision, like why we're doing what we're doing. In this day and age, maybe previously people didn't need to know the why of what you were doing, but in this day and age, it is crucial, especially with younger workers. We need a sense of purpose. Why are we doing this? You do not have to over-explain yourself. It's not always appropriate to explain everything of the why, but for the bigger goals that you have that you're working on as a team, why does this matter? What are the implications if we fail? Sometimes it's as basic as we cannot keep all of these jobs at this company if we're not hitting these sales numbers. And people, you think that's such an obvious thing, but people, if they've never been in management, they don't think that way. They're just thinking about their job and their task usually, right? I mean, certainly when I was like manager level, director level within a company, I'm just thinking about like, why isn't everyone doing this in marketing? And, I didn't have the full perspective of how this affects operations and sales and production and all of that. I just didn't have that full view. So if my boss had taken time to say, listen, this is where we're at as a company. These are our priorities. This is the exact way we're going to measure if we're hitting it or not. Well, that almost never happens in business, but that's 101, like exactly what you should be doing. Let me talk about it in nonprofit. So a lot of times people who get into nonprofit come with a very humble attitude, which is great. Like those are the kind of people we want to be in service. Having a spirit of service, an attitude of service is often about sort of minimizing yourself and your own needs and amplifying that of the population that you're serving. And that is a beautiful thing. But you need to get over it and let it go if you are fundraising, number one, if you are recruiting, if you are partnering, if you're trying to get recognition in media, of course. No one knows what you're doing unless you tell them. That is something I read 20 years ago and has shaped my career. No one knows unless you tell them. So if you have served a certain number of people this year, you have got to write that annual report. You've got to put it out in the email and 10 other ways because not everyone's opening the email, as we know, right? So part of communications is meeting people where they're at on the channel, but also telling them what to do about it. It's not just, oh, here's what we're doing. It's like, and you can support this work by clicking here and doing a monthly donation of this part. And what is our part in that? They're not just supposed to like feel good. We're going to keep sending you every month what your money has impacted, right? What the impact you are having as a donor. One organization that I think is really excellent at this is Oregon Public Broadcasting, OPB. Of course, they're also in that crunch that so many media companies are in, not to mention public media with the state of the world and funding. They were already doing pretty well, but now they have just, under their CEO especially, just brought their comms up to another level of like, here's why this matters. Here's how it affects you. Here's what you can do about it. And they are following up and they're being consistent. Really a model of great communications and to the appropriate audiences. You don't need to speak to everyone. You need to speak to exactly who you're targeting, who your most likely customers are. If you're recruiting, that's another thing, right? You've got to tell people the kind of impact they could have at your company. At big companies, there's a whole department sometimes dedicated to branding the company for potential employees. It's a way to stay competitive. So it's something to think about. And I've worked with a very small business on that before. Their problem that they were facing was not selling enough of their service. It was finding enough people who would want to work there because there was a huge talent shortage in their industry. So when we rebranded the company, we made it look like a cool brand that people would want to wear on a t-shirt, and like drive that van around. And that was, one factor of others in their communications strategy for building a great team. So again, especially nonprofit, no one knows unless you tell them. Now let's talk about the number one offender, the government. Cue minor chord. I think, was that even a minor chord or was that a major chord? See, now my music major is not coming through because I'm focusing on my comms major. All right, so governments. My government clients are fantastic. They work so hard. They are truly responsive to what the people want and need. Like, their spirit of service is so on point. They are always thinking about it, always trying to do better. They're extremely restricted within the system they're in that is overburdened with too many demands and policies that don't match each other. I mean, they're walking such a narrow line to try to even just stay legal in the work that they do. They work so hard. And there are a lot of awesome initiatives that are working in government, believe it or not, things that are available to you, information that you need as somebody who lives in a certain municipality. And in my city, communications is so chopped up that you've got one bureau who's doing an amazing job getting the message out, building value for what your taxes are paying for, because you are a customer in that way, explaining to you how to use the service. So for example, waste management, here's what's recyclable, here's what's not, here's how to recycle something that's not going to get picked up at your curb. Here's an infographic, a mailer that you could just put next to your garbage can and understand what to do with things. That's good communications. Here's the service we're providing. Here's how to utilize it the best possible way. Here's who to call if you're not sure, if it's not working for you. That is great communications. Meanwhile, over at another bureau, and by the way, I know that the city doesn't manage waste. It's at the metro level. So yeah, know who does what. That's another thing. Bodies of government are terrible at educating people on, here are the things we do versus here are the things like the county does or the state does. And it does matter because people will get mad at the wrong entity. But it's because these bureaus, departments, agencies are not operating in a holistic way under an umbrella. And I have told my electeds, you have to have some organizing person or principal at the top that brings all of these things together. I've worked with a lot of clients who have really different services, and the clients using this service don't even know that these other services exist. And so I always take what I call like the TV channel approach. Hey, remember television? It could be the streaming approach. Like, you've got a channel and then all of these different services have to look like they're coming from the same channel. I'm drawing an umbrella for you, and each section of the umbrella is a service, but the whole umbrella is the same color or the same construction, right? So that is something that needs to happen. Like, again, there's a lot of siloing in communications, and we've done a lot of work around communications operations for clients. Like, here's how to organize your work and your department so that everyone is optimizing their own duties and getting things out faster, because you, especially in government, have to be super responsive. And in my city right now, where they're at in some transition around this, which is taking too long, what the heck? There are middle managers who are not even allowed to reply to emails from the media with a link to where to find certain information, because it's like, oh no, everything that has to do with the media has to go through this exact person. Well, you know what? I learned at the beginning of my career, getting excellent customer service training, you never say not my job. Anyone who works for an organization is a representative of that organization. So you take care of it for the customer, or you say, I will find out for you and be right back. And you go do it, and you do follow through, because that's how you build trust and loyalty. So you don't just not answer because it's not my job. You go and find out because it's on you if there's the wrong email address that the information's going to, or the wrong person's at the desk. That's on the organization. It's not on the customer or the public. Other ways that the government fails at this, again, the person at the top may have a really clear view and vision of what needs to be done, but they forgot to tell the rest of the team. And there's like thousands of people in that entity, in that agency, and they're just showing up to work every day and losing morale because they're just maintaining, or they heard there might be budget cuts or layoffs. And so they're just trying to keep their head down, not be noticed or anything. When, as an executive, as a leader, it's your job to tell people, here's what we're working toward. So you're all rowing in the same direction. Here is how we're measuring success. Here's why it matters. Here's your personal part in it. Here's why you matter to this organization. And then be consistent in updating people and be honest about how it's going, right? One of my elected officials was really good about setting a very tangible, measurable goal. But then they fudged the real truth of how it was going. They were like, oh yeah, we accomplished it. But really on the ground, it was like, yeah, first of all, was this even the right goal? And second of all, like, you say we achieved it, but I'm seeing something different on the ground. So it was on that elected official to either explain that or define the goal better so that we're all in agreement whether we reached it. So that's the internal communications and what standards we expect, how they can find information. You know, do not go on a government website. I mean, there's always something that can be done to improve things. So then to the public, of course, there are a lot of amazing services and resources for us. For example, my city just opened an office of small business because we didn't have a direct place to go if we needed small business information and resources. And there's a lot out there, from grants to technical assistance to events to outside organizations that could help. But like, how are we supposed to find that information? Nobody has organized it. And before, when I complained about that, people would be like, well, why don't you do it? And I would say, because I pay taxes to an entity that has plenty of resources to do it. They've got teams of, half a dozen people. This is not hard. It's not hard to compile a list, throw in some hyperlinks, and send people to other websites. Like, a database doesn't have to be a complicated tech-enabled thing. It can just be a list. Like, start with something. You can always improve it later. There's this mentality, of course, in government and also in nonprofit, like there's never enough resources. And when I go in with a team and do some coaching in leadership, I offer to them the tool of like, no matter what thinking. This is very easy for me because I started my career in the theater, and you have an opening night and the curtain's going up no matter what, so you better be ready. That was excellent training for the rest of my career. So with my clients, we always hit deadlines. We always show up, like we don't push things because it's on us to be ready. And I think so many people running a business and running any kind of organization, they see numbers or deadlines as optional. I guess that could be a whole other thing. Let me stick on communications, right? If you don't come up with a fake number, fake dates, then you don't have to change it. It's that easy. It really is. Don't argue with me right now. Stop arguing. We're talking about communications. So here's the thing. You need at the top a communications professional running things who gets the strategy part. They cannot be a technician. They cannot be a manager. They have to be a strategist. If you have a very small organization, you can hire a strategist temporarily, like on contract. This is the kind of thing that I do, and have them come fix the mechanism. But then that person who's internal has a responsibility for maintaining the mechanism, like to a T, right? And then they have to be able to manage the system and see things holistically and say, it makes the most sense for this person to do this and that department to do that and everything. And it can't be about territory, and it can't be about status quo. It has to be about what is in service to the average person who is our audience. Really obvious things like, oh, I'm going to have a town hall. I'm going to have it in the least convenient place at the least convenient time, like 5 p.m. downtown. Bitch, I'm not going to downtown at 5 p.m. if I'm out working in the West Side or something like that. That's not good communications. Oh, now you're doing it at 11 o'clock in my neighborhood on a weekend. Okay, now we're talking. I can stop by that. No, tell me exactly when it's going to end and end on time. Throw some coffee in there. I'll show up. Right? It took our local government so long to figure that out, but we also had to redistrict, etc. So again, I have talked about my first web series was called The Audience, because I always said it's all about the audience. And all y'all are running it like it's all about you. It's not. Everything should be focused on your audience, whether you are a for-profit business, a nonprofit organization, or a government funded by the taxes those people pay. If you undervalue communications, no one's going to know what you're up to anyway. And the morale will be low, and that will make your job harder, because your people do not have a sense of purpose. They don't know what's happening and when. They don't know all the great work that you've been doing. They don't know what your wins are. Every single person in your organization should be trained in communications in some way, like talking points, bullet points, keeping it simple. Oh my gosh, y'all are not good at that, but especially government. Give me an infographic. Do not give me a 6-page report. I want an infographic. We overdo it. It's just the culture. The culture is over communication. Not in the sense of you're doing communication well, but when you do communicate, you make it so long, and therefore it takes so long to get out there that you're gumming up the whole system because you're not prioritizing action. I have so much more to say about this. In my dreams, I could just go fix everyone's communication, but not everyone. You have to be doing good work so that you deserve good communication. But I am so tired of watching organizations, especially large ones, underinvest in communications, treat it like, oh, a manager can handle that in our 1,000-person organization. It is an executive role. It is a crucial department. It is going to help you raise money, sell stuff, attract talent, retain talent, and build your brand. And all of those things are vital to the health of your organization. And they're vital to your personal happiness and contentment, so you're not burning out all the time, running in circles with your pants on fire, wondering why nobody gets it. Well, they don't get it because you didn't tell them. So take responsibility, invest in your communications. There is a tangible return on that investment. Game on. Game on. Gameon. Look at how great my communications